Live from the broadcast center in Los Angeles, this is KCAL 9 News at 4.
Now at 4, it is campaign 2020's final hours. Tonight it becomes all about the vote count and when we'll see the final results. There's been a record early vote and possibly the largest turnout in modern times. Hello everyone, I'm Juan Fernandez.
Good afternoon, I'm Susie Sa. This is KCAL 9 News at 4 and we're streaming on CBSN Los Angeles. The biggest prize on the ballot tonight, of course, the presidency. In the race for the White House, Republicans and Democrats don't agree on much.
But both sides do agree that this is the most important presidential election in our lifetimes. Coming in today, Joe Biden had a lead over Donald Trump in the national polls. But as we all learned in 2016, a lead in the polls doesn't necessarily guarantee a win. Polling places are starting to close in some states, and we expect to get some early results very soon. All
right, let's get to the latest developments now in the presidential election. KCAL 9 political reporter Tom Waite will be covering the race for the White House all night long. Hi, Tom.
Hi there, Susie and Juan. It's so exciting. The night is finally here, the road to 270. Here's the number to keep an eye on this evening. Donald Trump, Joe Biden, we have it at 0 right now. The first one to get to 270 electoral votes, that's what you need to win for the White House and the presidency. We'll see how it goes. California, of course, is the biggest prize of the night with 55 electoral college votes. California has voted Democrat in every presidential race since 1992, and that's not expected to change tonight. However, tonight's election, of course, will be decided in some part on this side of the country, on the East Coast, and we have a handful of states that are closing, mostly on the other side of the country here. Florida is one of those partially closing around 7 o'clock. We'll get to that more in just a moment here. First, let's start with the battleground states of Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. Traditionally, that was known as the blue wall, but President Trump burst through that blue wall in 2016. It went red and gave Donald Trump the presidency by less than 80,000 votes. Coming into today, Biden did have solid leads in Wisconsin and Michigan. And if we come back out to our map, Pennsylvania, this is another very important state. This has 20 electoral votes. And here's the deal with Pennsylvania. We may have to wait very late into the evening and maybe even to tomorrow to find out the results in Pennsylvania. That's because they're not counting many of their mail-in votes right away. They're counting their vote-in results today. But some of those mail-in ballots, they come in later. Their state legislature does not let them count those ballots until the polls close in some cases. So that may take a very long time before we get to that. All right, so this is the other states that we want to tell you about that could decide the election. North Carolina, Georgia, Florida, Texas, and Arizona. These are 5 southern states that traditionally voted Republican. They're strongholds for them. But Joe Biden is hoping to switch them from red to blue this year. One of those, of course, Florida. This is such a huge battleground state, a swing state for the ages, right? Well, in Florida, it's about 7 o'clock at night. That's when most of the polls there close, but part of the state is in a different time zone. Those 29 electoral votes, I can tell you, both campaigns are watching the results roll in very closely in this state. The good thing about Florida, though, we should start seeing results pretty early in the evening because Florida allowed their ballots to be counted from throughout the day and the weeks leading up to today. So we should have some information pretty early in the evening. If Biden wins Florida, the night could be a very early one because it'd be very difficult for President Trump to win re-election without winning Florida. So if President Trump wins Florida, then this night becomes a lot more interesting in the sense that it would be a very different path for both men to get to 270. Okay, so polls have also closed in Georgia, South Carolina, Virginia, Vermont, Kentucky, and most of Indiana. And reminder that polls here in California close at 8 o'clock, but if you are in line before 8, by 8, you can still vote. So don't leave that line as long as you get into line before 8 o'clock. It's going to be a very, very busy night here in the race for the White House, and I will have all the results for you as they come in. For now, Susie and Juan, I'll send it back to you.
We are just getting started here, Tom.
Right.
All right. Thanks so much for that.
You.
Well, it's been mostly problem-free at the polls with little or no glitches reported at vote centers.
Well, it's 4 hours to go now before voting centers close. KCAL 9's Rachel Kim continues our live team coverage at the LA County Registrar's office in Norwalk. Rachel.
Yeah, Susie and Juan, wait times have been pretty short all day long. In fact, This is the longest we've seen all day. Most likely people just getting off work and finally getting a chance to vote. Now, election officials said that there are a lot of COVID safety measures in place, and there have been no problems reported with voting machines today and during the early voting period. But just in case, they do have field technicians at every vote center to take care of problems on the spot. But so far, election officials say they are pleased with the turnout and the process.
We got to vote. We got to decide what we want to do, where we want to go with our country, and then move that way.
The line of voters was also moving, and people had an appetite to exercise their rights at the LA County Registrar Recorder's Office in Norwalk today. Election officials say as of 11 a.m., 75,000 voters had cast their ballots at vote centers across the county.
That is on top of the 2.6 million vote-by-mail ballots that were returned as of yesterday, and more than 535,000 voters who took advantage of the early voting in-person opportunities of the past 10 days.
Logan believes the shorter lines and wait times today are thanks to this year's mail-in ballot option and the early voting period. Did you have to wait very long?
No, 15 minutes.
The process is very easy. It was about 10 minutes.
No matter how long it took, voters told us why they waited to come out on Election Day.
I've always voted November 3rd. It's something that I like to do in person, and I like the process.
One of the main reasons for me and why I waited was I didn't trust the mail-in ballot system. I'd just rather come in and fill it out myself. And also it was my first time, so I wanted to do it on my own.
Election officials say after the polls close at 8 p.m., they'll be releasing the early vote-by-mail results, then the in-person early voting results.
And then throughout the evening, as the ballots cast today at the vote centers are secured and transported back here to our tally center, we will be adding those totals until we have an unofficial final tonight.
And election officials say if you are still planning to head to the polls, do not delay. They say as we get later into the night, there is a possibility of longer wait times. Now, for updates on wait times and the length of these lines, you can get updates on their website, lavote.net. They update those results every 30 to 45 minutes. Again, I know you know, but close polls at 8, but so do those drop boxes. Reporting live in Norwalk, Rachel Kim, KCAL 9 News.
Right, Rachel, good to know anyway. Yep. Voting centers are open across Southern California, and many of them are at arenas and sports stadiums.
And that's partly because NBA players took a stance and pushed for large voting centers. KCAL 9's Hermela Aragawi live now at the Forum in Inglewood, where voters are casting their ballots. Hermela?
Juan, Susie, this is a massive location, and from what we've seen, it is doing exactly what it was intended to do, which is to serve as a hassle-free place for people in the area to come cast their ballots. I mean, take a look at all of these voting machines. We've seen a consistent flow of people coming in and out of the building, but we have yet to see a line at the door.
The process to vote is so easy, like really it is, and now that I did it, I feel like, you know, a big weight is lifted off my shoulders.
It's smooth sailing at the Forum in Inglewood, where a steady stream of voters have been casting their ballots since 7 o'clock this morning.
It's my first election. It feels good. I'm relieved, not necessarily that it's over, but I'm relieved that I was able to put my vote in and have my voice heard and, you know, do my part.
Ariana Griffin came with her mother and grandmother, 3 generations that say this is one of the most important elections of all of their lifetimes.
I'm so excited, relieved. This time it feels like I really can make a difference with my voice. I couldn't sit at home. I couldn't expect someone else to do it. I have to come out and do my part too.
The iconic venue, which was purchased by Clippers owner Steve Ballmer in May, has been serving as a voting facility for the last 11 days. The LA County Registrar says it's been a safe and positive place for surrounding communities to cast their vote.
It's the first time I ever voted, and I'm 55 years old.
Sunday Jones, who's currently living in Arizona but registered here in California, drove 7 hours to cast her ballot in person.
It's hit my front door hard. My family is divided. It's hard to keep food on the table, jobs.
Like many other locations, the forum also closes at 8 o'clock. It's possible it could get busier as the night comes to a close, but like we said, it's been open for 11 days, so a lot of people have already come in and cast their ballots. Live in Inglewood, Hermela Argawi, KCAL 9 News.
It looks so hassle-free out there, Hermela. Thank you so much. And that's partly because LA County, there's no shortage of voting sites at our huge venues or sporting arenas, but plenty of voters took to their neighborhood polls to cast their vote.
That's right. KCAL 9's Jeff Nguyen is live in Sherman Oaks this afternoon, where voters tell us the lines are actually short. Jeff?
They certainly are, Susie and Juan. You know, throughout the day, there's been a steady stream of voters across the San Fernando Valley. And when they get to the door, they are offered gloves and masks and hand sanitizers. And a lot of people we spoke to say they were pleasantly surprised when they went inside. On this election day, voters got to choose between drop-off boxes and touchscreens, as Kenzie Garcia made her choice with her newborn son in Arleta.
It was awesome. He voted for the first time in such a monumental election.
It was a family affair for Maribel Lujan and her daughters. Mom wanted to make Election Day an educational experience in the era of distance learning.
I wanted to learn about the process and what it is to be a citizen.
It was very fun. I think it was really great voting because we could see who can be our leader.
Masks and hand sanitizers were offered at vote centers. And first-time voters like these 19-year-olds say the touchscreens were easy to use.
It wasn't complicated at all. So for people that are not like gadget friendly, it's pretty simple.
Being my first time voting, I felt like it'd be better to come in person.
10 minutes.
Yeah.
10 minutes.
With so many voting early, Abraham and Carla Dirtner say they were in and out in North Hollywood.
I thought it would be a big line and pretty crazy. But
and everybody's so friendly inside. Nice. Everybody very nice.
And they let us bring in Pablo.
Our dog, even our dog.
Back in Arleta, Kenzie Garcia commemorated this day with a picture that she says will definitely go into her son's baby book.
His voted sticker is going to be in there. It's pretty awesome.
And since Friday, there have been nearly 800 vote centers across LA County. Add to that mail-in voting, and we are seeing extraordinary early voting numbers. For now, we are live in Sherman Oaks. Jeff Nguyen, KCAL 9 News.
Great stories out there, Jeff. Thank you. Well, we haven't heard of any major problems with voter check-in, ballots, or machines.
But some places had really long lines today, despite more than 2/3 of the votes already being cast by last night. We have details on that coming up.
Come to SoFi Stadium and your I voted selfie is going to be really extra special. You'll have the brand new stadium in the background and maybe even Rampage and the Rams cheerleaders. I'm Lori Perez. Coming up, I'll tell you about the turnout at this new LA landmark.
Well, not all local voters are getting in and out in a matter of minutes. Those casting their ballots at the Woodcrest Library today in Riverside had to wait as long as 40 minutes this morning. Well, many say they didn't mind because this election is just too important.
I don't care what party or person or political alignment you might be, it's important to vote. It's been moving sometimes faster than the supermarkets, but more like the DMV.
Well, another reminder, if you're in line by 8 p.m. this evening, you can still vote.
Meantime, LA County gives voters the chance to vote anywhere on Election Day, and a lot of people made a point of coming to Dodger Stadium to cast their ballot. Some voters tell us they came because they weren't sure if they could trust mail-in ballots. Others say they just prefer the energy of being around other voters.
It's exciting. I know most people see it as another chore, but I thought it was something exciting to do.
Voting at the stadium began back on Friday.
Well, as we've been talking about, Angelinos can cast their ballots at plenty of iconic landmarks across LA. And right now, people are voting at the newly built SoFi Stadium in Inglewood.
Yeah, the place to be today. KCAL 9's Lori Perez live at SoFi Stadium to show us how things are going there. Lori?
Yeah, we are just across the street from that beautiful new $5 billion stadium. And the fun thing is, if you come here, you are greeted by Rampage and the cheerleaders. They are welcoming voters and helping to direct them to the actual voting center, which is just across this parking lot. You can see some folks walking up, starting to get in line. Things are moving along very smoothly here. No long lines, not a big crowd, but a very steady stream of voters coming to cast their ballot. Now, inside that building, which is just beyond those tents, we have video. Inside are some 20 voting machines where you can vote in person. You can also just come here and drop off your ballot if you have that prepared. So far today, they have seen more than 318 voters. Since Friday when this opened, they've seen almost 2,000 voters. Again, this being one of several LA landmarks that opened up as a voting center as a way to provide an area big enough to safely handle crowds, but also to encourage participation by attracting fans who want to come here and check out places like SoFi Stadium. We had a chance to speak with some very excited voter/fans, including a first-time voter and her mom.
It was a wonderful experience for me being a first-time voter, and it's really important to vote, especially being a Black woman in America.
I was like, I don't want to just mail it in or just drop it off. I want to have a full experience for you. This is your first time, so let's go ahead and make this happen. We're here.
Now here at SoFi Stadium, they are handing out these really cool I voted pins. You can see it says vote, 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 and then it also has the Rams logo on it. Just a cool memento to remember this special time when these stadiums did open up as voting centers to, again, encourage participation. And we are noticing a pretty significant uptick in voters coming at this time. People probably getting out of work and school and such, and bringing down entire families here to check it out and to cast their ballots, of course. They will be open here until 8 o'clock. Guys, back to you.
All right, very neat. Lori, thank you so much. And be sure to stay with KCAL 9 for continuing coverage of today's election. We have much more coming up in this hour. Then CBS 2 News at 5 and 6 will be broadcast on KCAL 9 today, leading up to our special election night coverage beginning at 7 p.m. We'll have results and comprehensive analysis all night long.
In other news, a 75-year-old diver who had been missing has been found dead in Marina del Rey. LA County Fire received a missing persons call a little after 10 this morning. They say a man was cleaning a buoy with a friend, and that's when he went missing. The dive team later recovered his body.
All right, for Election Day has been really nice, actually, although, you know, some of the lines that we're expecting to be so long actually haven't turned into those long lines. So
Indeed.
That's good news.
Let's want to go ahead and check in now with meteorologist Amber Lee to see what the rest of our day is shaping up like. Amber?
Hi there, Juan. Hi, Susie. So if you do plan on heading to the polls and you haven't already done so, again, polls close at 8. Temperatures are going to start to drop. It was a little bit cooler this afternoon here in the Southland, so we hit either at our mark or slightly below. So you can see by 5 p.m. temperatures will be about 70 degrees. This is for downtown LA. 6 p.m. in the upper 60s, and then by 7 p.m. down into the mid 60s. And then once the polls close at 8 p.m., we're looking at temperatures going down into the low 60s. Temperatures right now, a mix of 60s, 70s. We still have some 80s, especially in areas like Santa Clarita, Ontario, San Bernardino, and also the Riverside area. But things are going to quickly start to change. We're seeing some weaker offshore winds pick up once we head into the overnight hours into tomorrow, and that's really going to help warm things up. But we're still going to be dealing with more of the low clouds and fog, especially for a lot of our beach communities. So coastal dense fog very possible. Then the weaker Santa Ana winds pick up for Wednesday and Thursday. And then we're looking at a big cool down, a big turnaround in terms of weather, because cold, windy, and a chance of scattered showers as we head into the weekend, as a big low pressure system coming in from Canada starts to really push over into Southern California. So not only will we see some showers, but we could see even some snow flurries and snow levels dropping. So this is what we need to know once we head into the weekend. 2 low pressure systems, the first one Saturday morning, the second one Sunday afternoon, bringing us some scattered showers from Friday night into Sunday night. Coast and valleys could see anywhere from 1/10 of an inch to 1/4 inch. Mountains possibly up to 1/2 inch, and then snow levels begin to drop on Saturday, going down to as low as 4,500 feet by the time we head into Sunday and Monday. Tonight's overnight lows, we're seeing those temperatures in the mid to upper 50s across the board, a lot colder up in the high desert communities in the 40s, and then also in the 40s for the Riverside area. But take a look at our 7-day forecast. So tomorrow, 70s, 80s, 90s. Thursday will be the hottest, 80s and 90s, and then we're looking at this big cool down starting Friday. We're seeing 50s and 60s by the time we head into Saturday and Sunday. Some of it spilling into Monday as well before things finally start to warm up. 91 tomorrow for the Inland Empire. You can see dropping to the mid-50s by the weekend. Mid-80s for the high deserts tomorrow, dropping to the mid-50s also by the weekend. So we're talking almost a 20-degree drop in some spots, and then or even 30. And then we have mid-60s for the mountains, going down to the mid-30s by the time we head into Saturday and Sunday. Back to you guys.
All right, Amber, thank you. And our Election Day coverage continues. Coming up, we're live with voters at the Honda Center down in Orange County.
And the world is watching America vote. People overseas weigh in on the race for the White House. That's coming up just ahead. People around the globe are growing anxious for U.S. election results, as the winner will shape the future of relations with other countries.
That's right. KCAL 9's Ian Lee is in London this afternoon with a look at how some Europeans view the U.S. election.
The world is watching as Americans vote. Even people overseas feel they have a horse in this race, since presidents can change the course of history.
I love you, Trump!
President Trump enjoys a sky-high approval rating in Israel, with supporters hoping he gets 4 more years.
Trump is going to get reelected, and he is going to start his road to peace across the world.
Despite the president's unflattering description of African nations, hundreds are marching in Nigeria to support him. And in Russia, many fear a Joe Biden presidency. This resident of Moscow says Biden is too aggressive in his policies toward Russia. Support for the candidates really depends on the country and who they think will be best for their own national interest. In the UK, most believe Biden should be America's next president.
I think Biden will be the best for the UK economy to support us. I don't think Trump particularly cares about us all that much.
Well, I hope it's Biden, because Trump's awful for the whole world, for America, for Brits, for everybody, really.
In France and Germany, President Trump also remains deeply unpopular. It's madness, this French woman says. Trump is completely crazy. Others, like this German man, don't care for either candidate. He says, I find it unacceptable that 2 men in their 70s represent the nation. It's time for a new beginning. Whoever wins, the result will impact not just the U.S., but the world. Ian Lee, London.
Much more Election Day coverage coming up next.
Still ahead, we're going to show you how police and businesses nationwide are stepping up security over the election.
And I'm Michelle Geely, live at the Honda Center in Anaheim. This is the only drive-through vote center in the state of California. I'll tell you how the traffic is coming up.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Susie Sa.
And I'm Juan Fernandez, and our comprehensive Election Day coverage continues. Well, voters in Orange County certainly have options if they head to the Honda Center to cast their ballots.
That's right. KCAL 9's Orange County reporter Michelle Geely is live this afternoon in Anaheim, where some voters won't even have to leave their cars. Michelle?
That's right, you guys. This place has the distinction of being the only drive-through vote center in the state of California, and you're looking at it right behind me here. Voters have so many choices when they get here. These lanes behind me are for voters to cast their ballots in their cars or to drop the ballots off in person. Inside of the Honda Center, it's set up like a traditional polling place with booths for people to vote in. Both will stay open until 8 o'clock tonight. Now, since this vote center opened Friday, nearly 3,000 people have picked this Anaheim location as their preferred voting spot. For one family in particular, it was concerns about COVID that brought them here.
My mom has a underlying health condition, so we didn't want to risk going into the voting center, so we decided to do it in the car for that reason.
It was really easy, it was very convenient, and I really liked that I got to take my time in the car and just review everything before I made the final decision.
I don't know, I just kind of like the experience of being able to drop it off in person. It's fairly easy to just fill it out, safety and comfort of home, especially with the pandemic, and the whole like driveway setup, or like the drive-through setup, was pretty easy. I thought it was going to be way longer than expected, but you just drive through and you head on out.
We are setting a record here in Orange County. As of 4 p.m., 1.3 million votes have been cast. That volume exceeds what we had in the 2008, 2012, and 2016 elections. It's still too early to give voter turnout numbers here in the county, though. Now, because there was so much early voting going on here, 1.1, more than a million votes cast as of yesterday. The lines at these different polling places really aren't much to speak of. I did just speak to the Registrar of Voters, Neil Kelly, and he tells me the longest that people are having to wait here in Orange County is about 20 minutes. That's the latest live here at the Honda Center in Anaheim. I'm Michelle Gili. Back to you.
And Campaign 2020, more than 102 million ballots were cast via mail and in-person voting before the sun came up on this election day. And now we are starting to get some early results in from the eastern part of the country.
A reminder that it takes 270 Electoral College votes to win the White House. California has 55 of those votes. And as we've seen recently, as 2016, it is possible to lose the popular vote, but still win the Electoral College vote. So let's go back now to KCAL9 reporter Tom Waite for the very latest on the race for the White House. Tommy?
Well, Juan and Susie, one of the first things we were talking about that we're looking at tonight is checking out the results in Florida, and we have some of those results to tell you about right now. So at this point, with 50% of the precincts reporting, Joe Biden is holding, Donald Trump is holding on to a slim lead there with 50% of the vote, and Joe Biden with 49% of the vote. Again, this is with 50% of the precincts reporting, and we don't know the configurations of how these votes are coming in, if these are mail-in ballots that are being counted, or if these are in-person voting from today. So we are going to keep an eye on that, of course, but 50% with Donald Trump in a slim lead. And polls are closing in West Virginia and the battleground states of Ohio and North Carolina. North Carolina is another one of those southern states Democrats are hoping to flip from Trump red to Biden blue. This election is very important because those states are so critical. Polls closed across the state at 4:30 our time, but 4 locations which had technical issues this morning will stay open longer, and that will delay the release of results. Let's come back out here and take another look at Florida. Such an important North Carolina, 15 electoral votes here. That is so important because Donald Trump won that back in 2016, and Democrat Barack Obama won it in 2008. So a flip from red to blue is possible. Let's take a look in the Midwest, Ohio. This is another state that Donald Trump won back in 2016, but it's a flip is possible there. The state has 18 electoral college votes. Ohio went pretty solidly for Donald Trump back in 2016, and he must win it again. No Republican has ever claimed the White House without winning Ohio. West Virginia is the least likely of these 3 states to flip. In fact, it would be pretty shocking if it did. West Virginia went solidly for President Trump back in 2016. And a reminder that polls here in California close at 8 o'clock. And if you're in line by 8, you will get to vote. And the state does have same-day registration, so you can show up at the polls, register, and vote right there on the spot. Coming up at 5 o'clock, we'll have more polls closing in the critical states of Pennsylvania and Florida. Very close. Stay with us throughout the night here on CBS 2 and KCAL9. As soon as those results come in, we'll bring them to you. Susie and Juan, back to you.
All right, Tom, thanks so much. Now to the other big story of the night, the battle for Congress. Republicans are trying to hold on to power in the U.S. Senate.
Let's check in now with Sarah Donchie. She's watching several close races across the country. Sarah?
That's absolutely right, Susie. In fact, there are 35 Senate seats up for grabs this year. Republicans are defending 23 of them, and there are some opportunities here for an upset. We're getting some early results in already as we speak, so let's go to those right now. Republicans command 53 Senate seats to Democrats' 47. If Joe Biden wins the White House, Democrats will need to pick up 3 seats because the vice president breaks ties in the Senate. So if Biden loses, Democrats will have to gain 4 Senate seats to take control of the Senate. Here are some of the tight races we're watching in states where polls are closing now. We want to go right to Kentucky. We're getting some of the first results from that state. We have Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell here and Democratic challenger Amy McGrath. You can see with just 17% reporting, Mitch McConnell has a healthy lead here, 53% to Amy McGrath's 44%. That has pretty much mirrored some of the late polling we have seen. Now let's turn to Georgia. We have 2 Senate races there. First, we have Republican Senator David Perdue facing a tough challenge by a young Democrat rising star, Jon Ossoff. You can see that right now these results, Jon Ossoff is leading this race. We'll have to check in because, of course, only 3% reporting. A lot can change. A lot of game yet to be played. Of course, Georgia has this other Senate race. It's a crowded special election. There are 21 candidates on the ballot. It is probably going to go to a runoff. We're keeping an eye on those results, too. Even the Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell admits the battle for Congress is going to be a fight to the finish line. And as results come in, we'll keep you posted here from the congressional desk. Back to you.
All right, Sarah, thank you. Well, in the meantime, law enforcement agencies across the country are preparing for possible election protests.
Officials say they are not aware of any specific threats, but some business owners are preparing anyway, as David Begnaud reports from New York.
From Los Angeles to Denver to Raleigh and to New York, business owners are boarding up and bracing for election night. This year, the tensions are high, from anger over coronavirus restrictions to large protests about police brutality. The protests calling for racial justice were mostly peaceful, but marred by violence from agitators.
What have you guys done? We've just boarded up over the weekend.
Jim English is the general manager of Warehouse Wines and Spirits here in Manhattan. His store was looted during protests earlier this year following the death of George Floyd.
How much damage was there? It was almost $200,000 worth of damage. I did not feel particularly safe then. I don't think that they could allow that same response to happen again.
In the days following the election, we will have additional officers ready to respond to any type of incident.
The New York Police Department says it will work with 40 agencies to monitor activity from its Joint Operations Center. On Monday, vandals targeted the Democratic Party headquarters in Houston, Texas, spray painting the windows with the words "Elections No, Revolution Yes." FBI officials will be monitoring tonight's developments from a command center inside FBI headquarters. There was an independent report that found 5 states are especially at risk for civilian militia activity this week, including the state of Oregon. The governor says the National Guard is on standby.
We stand here today urging all Oregonians to commit to non-violent expression.
Federal law enforcement sources tell CBS News there is no direct threat about Election Day violence, but here's the concern. If the election ends up being contested, you might have demonstrators who go out into the street peacefully. The concern is that looters and agitators would then infiltrate the crowd, and that's when violence would happen. David Begnaud, New York City.
And stay with us for continuing coverage of today's election. Coming up, CBS 2 News at 5 and 6 will be broadcast on KCAL 9, leading up to our night-long election coverage of this historic night, starting at 7 p.m. on KCAL 9. We'll, of course, have results and comprehensive analysis all night long.
Still ahead here on KCAL 9 News at 4, a good election day on Wall Street. We'll check those numbers.
And in the battle between human workers and robots, the humans won. At least that's the case at the country's biggest retailer. We'll have details when we come back. Stocks closed higher today as investors wait for results of the presidential election. The Dow gained about 555 points, the Nasdaq was up 203, and the S&P 500 added about 59 points. Walmart is laying off a fleet of robots it was testing at about 500 of its stores.
Yeah, the robots were going around the store checking inventory, but Walmart says they would be sidekicks to associates. The 6-foot-tall robots with 15 cameras were developed in a partnership with Bossa Nova Robotics. The Wall Street Journal reports Walmart told the company its human employees did the job just as well, and now Bossa Nova has laid off half its workers.
Well, who said there's no such thing as a free ride?
Coming up, see where fares are weighed today here in Southern California. There is more news ahead just moments away on CBS 2 News at 5 right here on KCAL 9.
Meet Clyde. The robot is helping election office workers here in California what he does to keep everyone safe during the pandemic.
Plus, Meghan Markle making history on this election day. We have details on that straight ahead.
That's all ahead on CBS 2 News at 5 right here on KCAL 9 with Pat Harvey and Jeff Vaughn.
Well, Hamilton star Leslie Odom Jr. has an important message for voters today.
I am the one thing in life I can control. I am inimitable. I am an original. Wait for it, wait for it. I'm not falling behind or running late. Wait for it, wait for it, wait for it. I'm not standing still, I am my hero.
Look, this is pretty clear. Every American who voted deserves to have their voice heard.
And that's Odom singing his iconic Hamilton anthem, Wait For It. He's lending his incredible voice to urge voters to be patient about getting the election results because every vote counts.
We want to thank you for watching KCAL 9 News at 4.
Stick around because CBS 2 News at 5 airing on KCAL 9 today. That's coming up next right here.